for me, it's always really important to remember that my understanding of extroversion and introversion is really where you get energy from. Like what zaps your energy, what gives you energy, where you're comfortable, all that stuff. I don't think there's a huge relationship between like how good you are socially, how well you can turn, you know, it's like an introvert might be like really, really good at songwriting with a bunch of fucking strangers, but it might just like murder their soul.
Yes. Did John talk to you about sort of kicking things off with maybe you giving us a sort of potted bio, like a 1 or 2 or 3 minute version of how you see your journey? Did you guys talk about that today?
But we didn't talk about that, so I feel blindsided.
No. I was going to bring it up here.
I'm Ryan. I'm a music producer. I didn't grow up in a musical family, which in my adult life I felt kind of a little angry about, I guess. Frustrated about. But I didn't grow up in a super musical family, and that's like my immediate family and my greater family. I got a guitar when I was 9 or 10 and loved playing guitar. But I did not like scales very much. And had bands in middle school and high school, was in a couple metal bands. I handled low screams. My buddy handled the higher screams. So,
wow.
But I had kind of a weird, I grew up in Spokane, Washington, so I didn't grow up in a place that you would like cherish the musical culture.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So I went through a lot of like phases with what I was into, from like rap when I was young, and then metal, and then, I wasn't even exposed to, I would say like, classic great music until I started to sample shit. And find vinyl, which was incredibly embarrassing because your 16-year-old self is like, yo, I just found like that heat. And somebody else is like, yo, that's like super famous and been sampled like 500 times. So anyways, blah, blah, blah.
That's not embarrassing at all. That's your journey, right?
That's, absolutely my journey. But yeah, was into bands, and then I think I really liked. I was first on Cool Edit Pro, which is the previous generation of Adobe Audition. When I was a teenager.
That's Como D's DAW, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. It was free. So
yeah,
a lot of us had that. Yeah,
Cool Edit Pro, and then got on Fruity Loops.
Yeah,
which was not a cool thing in whatever year that was, 2004 or 3 or whatever.
No.
Like
PC
now,
only.
that's obviously like that's a go-to DAW at the forefront of a lot of popular music right now.
It used to be a joke. You would say it.
Yeah.
Oh, that dude
well, it
works
used to
in
be kind of
Fruity
like a garage band or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's undeniably a very fun DAW when you've never done it before. It's like it's fun. You fucking fill in the dots, and it's
I know.
And then I was on Fruity Loops for like a year and a half, and that was like MySpace era, and that was like my real, like, I would say like hustling era, where I was doing photography for local rappers and bands, and that was like, I really liked photography, and a little bit of MySpace design, which was like a thing.
Yeah, customization.
CSS.
Absolutely.
All over the place.
Like, loved that. And then that kind of evolved into like, album art and show posters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, it was through MySpace that I met Macklemore.
What age are you at this time?
when I met him. 18, I was maybe just the very beginning of community college, something like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, but we weren't really like working together super frequently for 2 or 3 years. I was doing some beat stuff, but I was pretty early on. So we did like 2 or 3 songs, and but I was doing a lot of photography and like my MySpace shit for him, basically. And then did an EP, but I did an EP with him, and I did an EP with this kind of, I don't know, poppier artist from Rhode Island called Symmetry at the same time. So that was cool to have like 2 really different things as a young kid. And then the rest is the rest.
I'm wondering, like, when you met Ben and you sort of were doing separate things for a couple of years, like, what was it that brought you together and you know, caused you to commit to each other?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah.
Well, one, I think that we just got along really well. And that's usually like kind of key, is that you're friends. But also, like, he was like a local popping rapper. So for me, like fresh out of high school, it was pretty cool that I was doing stuff with him.
And you thought of yourself as a producer at that time?
Yeah, I did not really think that it was going to be like what I would end up doing.
Were you more into photography? Is that kind of the focus at that point?
I thought that either photography or more likely graphic design was going to like have to kind of end up being what I would do as a job.
Plan A.
Yeah. And I kind of pursued that. But the ironic thing is, like, I went to the University of Washington, but not for any of this.
Yeah.
Which was also a big mistake.
And you finished, right?
I sure did.
You graduated.
I graduated, but I don't know. You know, when you're just young and foolish, I didn't really want to go at all. So what I definitely didn't want to do is go to a college that nobody like actually counted as a real bachelor's. You know what I mean? Like I got like I think like a partial, like a 50% scholarship to the Art Institute for graphic design.
I guess they were lucky to have you.
But I didn't do it because, one, it was super expensive, but 2, like, you know, I was like, I didn't want to do, I don't know. I felt like like a university was, I don't know, more, not like more respect. I don't know. I judge the shit out of like art schools because they're all for profit. And I don't know, if you didn't want to, it's like, if I have to do this, then it should be a real bachelor. Should none of this work out?
Sure.
Kind of. So anyways, that's what I did. And I guess to get back to your question, Spider, we were super good friends. We creatively worked together really, really well. And that's the best, when to kind of, despite whatever it is, when you meet somebody that, I don't know, a combination of just how you're wired, your personality type match up for sure, but also whatever they're showing up with skill wise and intuition wise and perspective wise is something that you really respect, but also recognize they have a totally different palette than you. So I think I showed up and I loved pop. But I don't think I knew that I loved pop when I showed up. But when I first started, like, you know, I was envious of, like, especially on like the local level, like people that made really good beat battle beats and like, you know, hard boom bap beats and like, and, you know, stuff at the time that was, especially in like more kind of underground hip hop, like really dope production.
Stuff that hit rather than...
Stuff that hit, like great drum, you know what I mean? Like, and I think I wasn't super conscious of the fact that like I just really liked pop, and that's where, for whatever reason, I went with my with what I liked to do. So kind of with that, like, I don't know, I like stuff that felt big or important or you know, like captivating. And
was that something that you had to push him in the direction of, or was that a mutual kind of aligned outcome of what you were both looking for?
That's a good question. I think we cared about different things for sure. And I think that he just came from a different background with different interests. So there was a lot of stuff musically that was his shit and I don't know. But I think he liked what I naturally wanted to make.
Yeah.
And I think I also really liked what he naturally liked to make. So
it was complementary.
It was complement. Well, but that's always the good thing, is it's not too complimentary.
No,
yeah, there's a
like tension.
Yeah, like you gotta, if you're not arguing along the way, like to me, if I think back to like, I don't know, stuff that I've done that was like the most extensive productions or whatever, it's filled with arguments and
you're arguing with yourself when you work together.
Yourself, with your friends, all
Yeah.
those things. But the right arguments with the right people, when arguing truly is like constructive, that's absolutely a way that things push forward. Because you're not arguing because you think the other person has bad taste.
You're not leveraging against each other.
Yeah, no. You're and also if it's one of those special relationships where there's just so much to offer each other, you're also willing to lose the argument.
So there's a framework of trust, like
Yeah,
that
I
you're
think so.
so you can get rough within that, but you know that ultimately you're in this, you're on the same team.
For sure. Yeah.
Do
Was
you-
there ever?
Oh, go,
sorry,
Michael.
Go ahead.
Yeah. No, you go.
I was just wondering if there was ever like a conscious moment where the two of you communicated that, you know, that trust, or were there many moments of that? Like, was it ever verbalized, or was that sort of just happening behind the scenes?
It was eventually definitely verbalized. But I would also say that, and it's something that I appreciate, is that we had like a pretty normal classic band linear growth for a good 3 years before starting to experience like fast growth and craziness. So with that, I think that there was, and I'm not including, you know, the 2 or 3 years or a couple of years, I guess, that we weren't really working together frequently. That's just another person in town that we did different stuff together, but we weren't really a group. It wasn't until we chose to do the Versus EP, which was basically just like meant to be like a blog mixtape thing, that we kind of had a choice of making like a band name for this thing or putting our two names together or whatever. That was the beginning of what was like, I don't know, kind of like required, more formalized, like, what are we doing here? But again, if I put myself back there, like, and you know, people know this, like, it very incremental, like, let's group up for this thing, the blog mixtape, and then you know, you enjoyed that, so what's next? Let's do it again.
I'm interested in so, you know, clearly you had this interesting shared energy and sort of the necessary rub, the necessary tension that we talked about with Macklemore. Is the Ryan now the producer that's in the room with Kesha or whoever, do you feel like aside from the obvious growth and development as a person and a parent and whatever, do you feel like you plug into other people the same way, or was that interface with Macklemore very unique? Like, was he a singular puzzle piece for you at that time in your life, or is it like, did you relate to him like you relate to anyone?
Yeah. Great question. I think that there's aspects of it that are somewhat singular for sure. And it's kind of, I feel like if I didn't say that, I'd be lying. Mostly because you're talking about 10 years with the same person. So like on day one of meeting him, or even a year into having a relationship with him, would that be the, would he be a substantially different relationship than other people at the time or whatever? No. But it's not just how long you know somebody or how long you're friends. It's like, how much creative stuff have you done together? And I've just done a lot with him. So that time where the other just so much stuff about the other person. Yes, creatively, their taste, their preferences. Everything. What they'll like, what they won't like.
What battles to fight.
If I'm walking into a room right now with songwriter or artist or whatever, that's not going to be there. What can be there, absolutely, is particular people that you click with. Like Kesha is definitely one of them.
Spark.
But granted, I would also say like Kesha's pretty. She's just pretty great to be in the studio with, and it doesn't have a lot to do with me. You know what I mean? Like she's egoless, she's down, she's not judgmental of the ideas you're going to play or the stuff that you share, all of those things. So like she is like a bit of a dream. If you're going to do a session with a stranger, she's like the best because she makes it such a, what you want, a really safe, fun, creative environment from the get-go. So that was easy with her. What I would say when you work with somebody like that is it speeds up how quick you can start to build that creative rapport, how quick you're going to play that beat that you think is a C+, or, share that lyric idea that you think, that's kind of corny, but whatever. And to me, I guess just to expand upon that, like, I don't think it's done me a service in terms of walking into rooms with stranger writing professionals or whatever it is. Being in a band with somebody super duper well for 10 years does you no service to in fact it not only it does not prepare you.
That was my next question.
I narrowed in so much.
Yeah.
You specialize so narrowly.
Creatively, but also you mentioned, like the growth curve, and then the sort of, when you get attached to a rocket and it just goes.
Yeah.
And increasingly there's a set of experiences that only you two have had.
Yeah.
You sort of end up on a kind of an experiential island.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because it's like no one else has been in that sort of grubby rehearsal studio and then backstage with a fistful of Grammys.
Yes.
In your particular way. There's only one other dude who's lived your life
There's something
with you.
precious about that.
There is, but it is also, it does sort of, thinking of the podcast I was listening to today, it's like it does form a set of expectations in your brain that you can relate that way to other people.
Yeah.
It's sort of, you build a shorthand with someone that when they're, when you move past that, relationship into a bigger field of play, it's like you don't have that shorthand, or it's different.
Well, I would go one step further and say that walking into a session as a producer for a hip hop session and walking into a pop session are like two different planets.
Oh, I love this.
And for me, kind of despite all the music I put out or whatever, I would say that the way that I worked with Macklemore was more like a hip hop session. And when I say that, I say like, play some beats. You know what I mean? Like, play some beats until you like one. And then, and then we'll, and then you're going to write raps. And, in his case,
fast. The pace of the
in
session.
his case, not going to be melody driven a lot of the time, going to be really lyrically driven. And then when that idea of a song starts to come together, it might call for just a rapped hook, or it might call for bringing in somebody else and doing some type of collaboration. So after the fact,
Yeah.
you now have this production that's like pretty put together, and your verses are like in there, and you got like these slots for choruses.
Yeah, but that's where that's where the Ryan Lewis in the band pushes up against it and says, well, I want to have a pop record that's memorable.
Yeah.
We have something to come back to connect on. And there's this slot for this, and I'm not just going to allow a mediocre rap hook on it. You want something that's going to compel, and
Sure.
That's what you're talking about with your history of being a pop songwriter and interest.
I'm actually more talking about the very beginning of that.
Yeah.
And the leap from my creative life of often making instrumentals that will more likely than not become Macklemore songs.
Yep.
And jumping from that to pop songwriting
That is
in
a
the
different
publishing
game.
world of Los Angeles.
Those are different intuitions.
Yeah.
Retrained.
Well, they're-
Completely.
Yeah, in the pop session, sure, you can play a bunch of beats and that can be a jump off point. But I mean, go down the list. If there's no drums, probably better. You know what I mean? If it's not a finished thought, probably preferred on behalf of the songwriter. If you're able to change the chords, probably preferred for somebody that's going to write a melody, right? And if we can start from scratch, great.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that pokes at you as a producer or as a musician in different ways, and for me, can fuck with my confidence too, because like, I absolutely came from an environment that like, I walk in the room and I'm like, yo, let me play something. You just play a fucking banger, and then like, off to the races with raps or whatever. And the way in which music is, commonly crafted within a bunch of people on behalf of publishers and whatever is just totally often wanting different things. Also, the producer is very much in service to the people that are in the room, and that's something that I didn't have practice in either.
So you're kind of coming in. Go, John.
Well, I've had a unique vantage point being in the room with you during this exact time in this transition, and you'd play a beat, and then like writers would respond or artists would respond, or be like, "That's tight. I don't know about those drums." Or, oh, there's a melody synth in there. I'm not sure how I sing along with that melody synth that's in there.
Sure.
And instead of you being like, let me open up a session and fuck around with that, you're like, let's play another beat, right?
Yeah.
That's like how, but maybe in that, if you, at that time, were more flexible, you'd be muting things, having more access and more confidence really is what you're talking about at that point.
Yeah, well, and what you do, I think in that, for me, in that pretty drastic learning curve is you go home and you realize, like, I often have been making music for somebody that is going to rap on top, and they're probably not going to add a melody. So there's a space for me to be doing melodic stuff on this instrumental in the background.
Yes.
And I've been doing that forever,
Yeah.
right? And so then you start walking into these pop sessions, you're like, why the fuck would they want a top line fucking, trumpet or even like piano? Why would you want anything if the whole goal here is to be adding a melody? You know what I mean?
That would be my note to you when you would play me a beat. It'd be like, that's so good, that rhythm, that beat, everything about it, the groove is right, but why is there a horn in the hook? Like,
yeah, I think the most drastic, I don't know, way you could put it is, for me, having conditioned myself quite a bit to be thinking I need to walk in the room with something that sounds instrumentally very complete.
Complete, exactly.
Or, already sounds like XYZ, and transitioning from that to walking into the room with something very purposely incomplete.
Naked.
And-
Flexible.
flexible, intriguing, and that's cool. In some ways, like, that's all good. That's just something to learn how to also be good at, where it's like, hey, this is just a loop that I really like.
I'm thinking that you're writing these instrumentals with these great hooks, and it has the horn line, and there's a level of confidence that you can make Macklemore excited. You know that you can. You know that there's a big. We're looking at the Venn diagram of shit you enjoy. This big, energetic up. stuff and shit he enjoys, and there's an overlap. So you know that if you get to beat 3 or 4, something's going to pop and he's going to start going, right? As opposed to the creative risk of being in a room with songwriters where sometimes it just doesn't happen.
Well, it's also like here, I mean, and I would just 100% say that, like, I think you got to do a lot of like pop songwriting sessions to like wrap your head around a lot of this. Like, one thing I would say is like, where are you at as a songwriter? The other person coming in. This is session number 197 of the year so far.
Yes.
These people are writing hundreds of songs a year. It's a hard job. And because, often you're generally writing songs for pitch, it's very much a business. It's so different. If you're in a group with somebody, there's a lot of like, where are you at creatively? What are you into? What you know what I mean? Like, what do we want to do? What's exciting to us?
Yeah.
I think the agenda is a bit different when you're not writing a song with the person who's going to perform it.
Yes.
You're writing a song that has got to have appeal for multiple artist options to be pitched to, and it's just a totally different thing.
It's got to be sticky enough for A&R and sticky enough for a label head to kind of...
Yeah, I mean, all of that stuff for sure. But yeah, I guess I'm just saying that like the songwriters coming in as well are looking on their own end for something particular.
Yeah. It's been on my mind this weekend because there's, without naming any names, because I know 2 or 3 of the people involved, but let's say in the last couple of weeks, a giant song from a kind of marquee artist came out and it has a ton of writers.
Yeah.
And it's like a moment in sort of the current pop music thing. And I'm just shocked at how disappointing it is. Just how sort of profoundly weak it is. And like a theme at this table that we've been exploring for the last 20 episodes is just what are the downsides of this modern song factory thing, this 197 songs that year so far.
Yeah.
And the sort of like people walking in, looking at their phones during the whole session, walking out, looking at their phones. All right, see you next week. Like this kind of phoning it in, sorry for, aspect to the business. And just how, I mean, I had to do a deep fucking dive over the holidays to like remember. So we had an episode before we signed off, maybe our last one or second last, where we were talking about this. We were listening to this podcast with this guy who was just fucking psyched about music, like way more psyched about music than I remember being since I was 15. And I said that I was sad about it. I heard him and I was like, I'm sad, I've lost something.
Yeah.
Because I listened to the records coming out now, most of them, not all, but most. And I'm like, I'm not hearing it.
Yeah.
I'm not excited about New Music Friday. And
no one's going to blame you for that.
Yeah, but I'm curious. I'm at the mastering end of it. I'm at the very end of the thing, trying to, do my thing, do what I do. But you're in it. You're in that mode, and I'm wondering what you, it's clear you're like, yeah, okay, this is a reality.
Yeah.
How do you think we can change it? How do you think we can make it? How can we make it riskier, and how can we make it less of a production line, and what could we do that next week the people who show up for your session, the chances of something great coming out of it?
Could the production line be refined to produce?
Yeah. Yeah.
Shit, I don't know.
If you knew it, you'd be doing it.
What do you wish was different about
without criticizing people?
Pop sessions.
Oh, there's a good, that's... What do I wish was different about pop sessions? Oh, this is an easy one. And I actually think that a lot of people would agree with me. Actually, I can name a few. The first one, I wish that everybody would go get a cup of coffee before going into the studio.
Yes.
Together.
Yes, I think that should be a requirement. I was thinking to myself about publishing. And I was like, if for whatever reason I found myself working at a publishing company, or rather, even I'm not working there, and a publishing company decides that they wanted to open studios for their writers to work at, a coffee shop is something that would benefit everybody. As a very intentional, like, I just got to say this, it's fucking crazy that a bunch of people walk into a room to like get real vulnerable and try to make something really good, and they've never met and they just shook hands, and you don't know a thing about like the people that you're with. Like the thing that is I would say is not helping anything is the extent of how transactional pop writing is. So the first thing I would say is like some type of like infrastructure of it being common to like know the person at least for 20 minutes before you jump right into like trying to make a song together. That's number one. Number two, the amount of time I would shift, not necessarily a ton because I think it'd be unrealistic, but a little bit more time allowed for a thing that you're working on before you move on to the next thing, if that makes sense.
It totally makes sense.
Like the one thing that is tricky is that, songwriters are bouncing all over and producers are bouncing all over to all these different sessions for all these different artists, blah, 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 blah. Generally speaking, if things were like in little blocks of like 2 to 3 days, and that was a little bit more typical, I think that would benefit everything.
This is good.
There's for sure.
There seems to be a mindset of like
Here's
dice
the
rolling.
thing. Here's the thing. Everybody would agree with me. You usually know in 5 minutes when you walk into a session if like this is not the one.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like you walk in,
Chemistry?
you meet a person. Yeah.
Or
You
la-
meet
or
a
lack of.
person. There's or whatever you're walking into. If it's gonna be a bad session, your gut typically kind of tells you. And I don't mean like, there's a lot of sessions you'll walk to and it's going to take a minute to like ease into it. But the ones that are just not going to be productive, like you usually kind of know. So, if you had a plan to do 2 to 3 days with a person that's not working out, then just cancel. But generally, I'm more, I guess, speaking to like what people want.
Yeah.
If I could change something about pop songwriting, I wish that people wanted to treat music a little bit closer to how to the time that I think historically is usually given to songs, or you know what I mean, with people going into the studio and bands writing songs and whatever, if that makes sense.
You're speaking my language,
Yeah.
or
So
our language. I
camping
think.
out, even like this sort of idea of family building or band building.
Yeah.
If you find like a crew of writers and you want to do like a week and you invest in each other, and that may bring out more in people.
Yeah. I think that, and obviously they're doing camps all over the place and people become friends and write together a lot and all that stuff. But I don't know. I think, I guess the easiest example is like when you bang a song out and whatever it is whatever it is. And there's usually like kind of an assumption that it's like, this is it. You know what I mean? Like, you're probably not going to get back together to keep working on this thing.
Yes.
It's like and maybe this is just like, the producer's complaint box. But like, typically the producer from these sessions is going to be going home with whatever that is. And then your job is to make it sound outstanding. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And all the things.
Realize
So,
it.
Yeah. So, yeah, that would be another thing.
Yeah, I love this because we're speaking of the transition from Ryan Lewis as the artist to Ryan Lewis as the producer of other artists, and you're such a complete, for lack of better words, I see you as a visionary. I see you as having the whole picture of a song when you're allocated the responsibility, and without you being allocated that responsibility, I don't necessarily see you at your full potential, right? So if you only have 4 hours and you have a lead vocal up the middle, you don't have any ad-libs, you don't have any harmonies, you don't have the opportunity to try another hook on a B+ that can be an A. Like we talked about this. You've shown me B+ songs. You're like, if we only elevated the melody on that second part of the hook, it's like, I'm never going to get in the room with that person again. It's just like, that to me is not you at your finest.
Or I mean, you could get in the room with that person again, but
But
I'm like the first to say that, like, I'm a person stepping into this arena from having been in a fucking band forever. You know what I mean? Like that's a particular perspective. Somebody that showed up to LA when they're 19 and have been killing it in fucking songwriting sessions for years and years, totally different journey. For me, there's something about frequently seeing a songwriter that you have a great rapport with.
Yeah.
And then when you think of some change that's going to make it better, it's just not a big fucking deal. It's like they're already there.
They're there. Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
And it sounds like the hip hop session is more like your band experience that you have sort of at this point, like sort of preternatural intuition to do. The pop writing sessions seem to have more challenges.
it depends. Yes.
Yeah,
Would
I mean,
be the answer.
generally.
Generally speaking, yeah.
But what is it about these more difficult sessions that you're so drawn to? Like, why do these sessions?
Yeah, great question. I don't know. I still definitely feel like, well, one, I got to work with a rapper for a really long time. And also, like, rap has, hip hop has obviously evolved and changed and drastically, I don't know, grown into all this different stuff in the last 10 years. But, there's an excitement to me in pop and pop songwriting and melodic songwriting. And there's an intrigue to me in getting to work with different artists of different types. There's still an intrigue for me in, I feel like it's a dream for any producer to have songwriters or, people with that level of relationship that you get to work with frequently, that you do really good work with. And a lot of people find that. And I have worked with a lot of really good people down here. So, like, a lot. It was like a couple of days ago, I was like, kind of taking inventory in this, like, COVID times. Like, I mean, every writer is doing a completely different kind of thing. Some are Zooming, some are whatever. But I've worked with like a ton of super talented, awesome people. But they're all doing pop songwriting and on publishing deals. You know what I mean? Like their goal and what they're excited about is jumping around to all these different sessions for all these different artists or whatever. Like you don't commonly, at least commonly, you don't find like a general songwriter that's like, I don't know, selectively working with a single producer. Yeah, if that makes sense.
If you don't mind, when a pop session goes great, what do you love about it?
Oh, that's a great question. Oh, I mean, well, that's something that's like, pop is pop, So if it goes great,
you guys
there's
can't
nothing
see this,
poppier than
Ryan's
pop.
face is just aglow. He's just smiling ear to ear.
It's just it's to say like, pop can be so infectious and big, and it can impact so many people. You know what I mean? And there's also so many different kind of versions of it. You could feel like that amazing session was writing a song that for some reason spoke to culture in an incredible way, or spoke to the shit show we're in societally and politically right now in an amazing way. Or you could have made a song that you're like, this is the song of the summer. You know what I mean? Like my money's on this. So there's different types, I think, of excitement from different types of songs that you can feel like really come together. And some can make you feel like you just figured out the thing that you only figure out every once in a while. You know what I mean? And and that you're probably not even really in control of, where it's just like, oh damn, like all the pieces went to the right place. And, you know what I mean? And like, and when you walk out and you just know, It's like, this is important.
Yeah. Undeniable.
This is the undeniable
That
one. And what you don't know is exactly, you don't have control over how it's going to do or whatever, but what you know is that like the part of it, which is the song itself, the rest is up to the fucking internet and everything else. But the part of it that's like just an undeniably awesome song, you did. And so I think as a producer or a songwriter or an artist, that's the hardest thing to do. And the wildest thing about our job is how non-time based it is at all. Like, it's weird to think about, like, how much time you spend on something has very little relationship to its value.
Yes.
At all. And, you know, so many people talk about how, like, their gigantic life-changing things took, like, 12 minutes or like, some bullshit they did at, like, you know. And that's why I say, like, I don't think you're in... I think all you're really in control of is, like, how often you're open to that being able to happen, and how patient you are and how much kind of faith you have that if you keep opening the door and doing those sessions that might feel like strangers or whatever, that you have a greater likelihood of stumbling into something awesome.
You want to take the mic off the stand and drop it? Because you just covered it there. That's everything.
Roy, this is where I imagine, you know, because I've done a number of pop writing sessions in town with epic songwriters.
Yeah.
And when you have an intuition for pop, there is this sort of gratification that you are yourself intrigued with the hook.
Yeah.
You know, you have this connection to the music, but more than that, what's I think unique about you is everything you're imagining that's not the song, that's associated with the song.
Yeah.
You know, and I related that too, in the sense that you see the video, you see the album cover in your head. All this stuff starts to take shape and it's very inspiring. I wonder if your, you know, work or attraction to graphic design, these other modes of communication that are associated with songs and artists and stuff come into play when you're sort of in the room and how you gauge whether the song will go or not.
Have you ever heard about, somebody was telling me about filmmakers, and I mean, we all experience this with music, but it's more interesting to me to think about it because I'm not a filmmaker, but like when somebody like learns everything there is to know about making a film, the movies are ruined forever. You know what I mean? Because like you can't really enjoy a movie anymore. You're just thinking
You've
about
seen how
all
the sausage is made.
Yeah, exactly. And like, you know, it sparks all this curiosity and whatever. And this kind of circles back, I think, Rory, to the excitement about albums from way back when, or you know, how excited are you about music or whatever. And I think it's undeniable that it's like when you know everything there is, you know, not everything there is to know, but when you know a lot, you don't have like this really awesome, ignorant experience of music anymore. Do you know what I mean?
This is where we landed the night we talked about it. John was like, kind of basically your take was, what do you expect? Like we work on music all day long, so it can never be the same. And I don't want to believe that.
But I think there's I think what's kind of interesting, because I'm trying to answer kind of your question, Spider, about, and yours, John, about, you know, making a song and thinking about music videos or whatever complementary stuff that's going to branch off of a song or an idea. And if I think back, I think you don't really start to think about any of that stuff until you start to ruin movies. Do you know what I mean? Like, which is, it's kind of to say like, I wasn't thinking about, you know, music video ideas sparking until trying to make some music videos. Then that sort of joined in on making songs. It was almost like I couldn't not. It was like, especially if something starts to sound good, it's like, well, if this is good, it's probably going to get a video. And if it's going to get a video, like
get ahead of it.
you just start thinking about it, or
So it's a fluency thing. Once you're fluent enough at music, you're sort of free to imagine those other things.
It's almost like if you're in a band and you're about to finish an album and you've already gone on tour once and you know you're going to go on tour again. Now you're thinking that at some point you're going to have to turn in like an ad mat, like a poster for your tour. So you're going to start thinking about that because you know that that's a creative thing that you're going to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
but versus why would you be thinking about tour posters 4 years before that? You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
Just to finish the thought, I guess, it was a thing that I loved, absolutely loved about working with Macklemore, but also about not having a lot of those departments, provided by a label or somebody else.
Right, because you guys were running your own, for people who don't know, you guys were running your own machine.
Yeah, which isn't to say that you're doing all of the pieces of the machine well.
Well, I was going to ask that. Did you ever get a bad, I know you've co-directed every video you guys put out. Did you ever get a bad treatment and you were like, I could do this better? Or
we never got...
Or did you never get a treatment?
It was the same group of people.
Always Jason and you and...
Jason, Ben, Trish.
It was all you guys.
Lots of people. All people that were already working.
Yeah.
And obviously see Jason at the forefront of that, where his real gift is undeniably all things visual.
Yeah.
But yeah, so a unique thing that like, I guess in a weird way, I'm like, it would be hard for me to imagine somebody else in my shoes not also just thinking about, you know what I mean? Like these things that were going to have to happen at some point. Like this is going to be a thing. So, but what I think is actually interesting is how much most of that stuff doesn't, I mean, it's the same conversation, but doesn't translate to production, generally speaking, in the music industry. Like it's interesting to shift from having that ability to think about, to have the control, to think about a song, the video, the
whole life
fonts, the whole, like you're thinking about it way more as like a package where the song's gonna be the real center of that package, but it's gonna have all this stuff, and you get to figure out the whole thing. So you're creatively thinking about it as a package versus if you're going into songwriting sessions, especially like ones per pitch, not useful to be thinking. You're not thinking about any of that stuff. It's a much narrower job.
Yeah.
And with that, I would say, with a narrower job, a more specific type of producer that does really well at it, at that job. And and so for me being down here, it's also like figuring out, I guess to your question, Spider, like, do I want to do this? Like, what do I want to do? Like, I want to figure out how to scratch all these itches in this new environment.
We've kind of described this LA song factory, and we've sort of sketched a very 2D Xerox version of who you are, right? And how you think about music. So there's a kind of a tension. Do you pull artists into your world and say, hey, we're camping out, we're going to do this long form, 3 days? Or do you jump into the river of the LA thing and fucking 3 hours here, 3 hours there, boom, boom, boom? There's a kind of a...
Yeah, I'm more built for the first one.
For the first one.
For sure.
So that's what your new enterprise kind of is to draw people into your world and that pace. Deeper connection.
Yeah. I think I'm still exploring, for sure. I'm still doing both of those things.
Yes.
Like, I'm still, and granted, this has been the weirdest year ever.
Yes.
But I would say that like both are worthwhile, right? Like, I guess I would tell like a person who's like been in a band forever that is sick of like the rat race of running around shaking hands or whatever. It's like, I would say there's still value in that, despite it being exhausting or you just being like, everybody just wants their team and their reliable people that they do great creative work with and for it to work. So everybody's looking for that. Nobody wants to run around meeting fucking strangers for like ever, writing new songs. But I think that there's value in it, in building those new relationships and seeing what people are doing and seeing who you click with and all that stuff. So I still find value for me in leaning into to that.
Yeah.
On the flip side, I would say I do my best work and I find myself the most confident when I am a little bit more long form with my best work with an artist who writes, no question about it. The extra leap of like, let's write a song and pretend that we have any idea what an artist is going to want to sing about. If you're trying to, whatever. My favorite is when when the person who's writing it will also be performing it, is just what I've been conditioned to love. But second to that, definitely long form with just a songwriter, for a bunch of reasons that I've kind of already said.
That makes sense.
But I kind of think that, like, I don't know, I might make an argument that like damn near anybody would do different or would do better work like that than the rat race.
So why
Yes.
Yeah.
is this again, we're sort of generalizing, but in this pop session, pop song machine that we're talking about, people are running all over town sort of doing these quick in and out sessions with people that they are not deeply invested in.
Yeah.
So there's this sort of superficial relationships, but what is the advantage? Why is this the dominant strategy? Like why are people doing it this way?
I would say a lot of people are built really well for it.
Sure.
First and foremost.
It's extremely social.
Oh yeah. People, I think it requires a few really, really important things. One, I think that ownership in the stuff that you're doing is key. As in, if you're used to taking full ownership in the artistic integrity of the stuff that you've put out, doing LA songwriting is probably a difficult thing unless you can rid yourself of
those powerful impulses.
Yes. Well, like if you're used to like, yo, this represents me, you know what I mean? Like, that's not helpful. So people that are built really well for it, I think just low anxiety in that realm where they're cool, having different levels of participation in a bunch of different stuff, chipping in, helping, sometimes being, lead writer on different stuff, whatever it is, but not stressed out by having everything that they're a part of needing to be something that honestly they're proud of. I think that's a big piece.
In a sense, you're talking about an engineer's perspective, a mixed engineer's perspective. If I was had to be enamored by everything that I worked on and fully invested in, I wouldn't have the output level that I do, and the business model wouldn't quite work. Right?
So you're not burdened by attachment.
Yeah.
But I would also argue, John, that I feel like what you were just speaking to is the music that you're mixing, and what I'm speaking to is your mixes.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where like you actually have to be okay with some of the mixes being like, cool.
Yeah.
No.
I'm actually talking about that exactly. I'm talking about that part. Part two. Part one is whatever. Part two is, wow, you really want the guitar to be that loud? So, that's fine. It's not my best work, but I'm not going to can the record for the artist who wants the guitar loud.
Totally. So that is a piece. I think extroverts thrive in anything like this because anything transactional, I think people that get a lot of energy from jumping in with strangers and making it happen,
you get to reinvent yourself every time. And
I think it's more fulfilling when you get a lot of energy from extroverted stuff. So I think that isn't to say you have to be an extrovert. There's a lot of people. I mean, I've met songwriters that are some of the biggest songwriters that doing these sessions is like a crippling,
Yes.
like an anxious experience. Like some of the top songwriters are.
Yes.
It's pretty painful, but they're also super good at what they do.
Yeah.
And
those songwriters write with 3 or 4 people, though.
it's true. Well, it starts to figure itself out.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
With a
Where
few
it's
comfortable
trusted,
people.
Yeah, or they're going in with people that help make it, in my opinion, feel a little bit more like your friends and your band or whatever. But I do think when you're still on the hunt of finding your people or your scenario that feels right, being an extrovert would help. I'm not. I've become more introverted as I've gotten older, and so
Me too,
It's,
yeah.
it's often exhausting for me. Not necessarily the music or navigating that, but just showing up when you're like. It's kind of like, you know, to show up to a session and go, I'm going to do 2 things at the same time. I'm going to be creative, but I'm also going to like have it turned on all the time. Yeah, it's like hosting.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
I'm going to
yeah.
have my hosting, you know, personality going all the time. And that's exhausting.
Do you think that changed? Because I had a long call with a friend of mine in Ireland the other day. Old friend, the first guy I started playing music with, and we were reconnecting, and we were talking about this transition from, I would have considered myself quite extrovert to of late being more introvert. And I wondered if the kid thing was part of it, of that kind of like, I want my brightest light to shine on them on a given day.
Yeah.
So, you know, if I go home after this and one of them is awake, it's like they're getting 100% of me for 20 minutes, and then I'll like shrivel and die in front of my wife, you know? But is it like, maybe I'm sort of clumsily leading into how having a kid changes your work life, but what do you think is driving that shift from, have you just lived the bright extrovert life long enough and it's kind of like you're older, wiser? Do you think the kid thing has anything to do with it?
I think for me, and because the good old introvert extrovert conversation, I feel like it happens every 3 months. For me, it's always really important to remember that my understanding of extroversion and introversion is really where you get energy from. Like what zaps your energy, what gives you energy, where you're comfortable, all that stuff. I don't think there's a huge relationship between like how good you are socially, how well you can turn, you know, it's like an introvert might be like really, really good at songwriting with a bunch of fucking strangers, but it might just like murder their soul.
Yes,
like, who knows?
Very important distinction.
So when I say I think I've gotten a little more introverted, I don't even know if that's true. I think I said that, but I don't even know if that's true. I was very extroverted for my younger life. I think, and I don't think that the rocket ship of the Macklemore experience made me more of an extrovert at all. I think that's like, you want to become more of an introvert, do that. Because it's weird. Like, talk about hosting. Imagine that, like, you know, fundamental part of like all the activities you're going to be doing daily has a little bit of hosting to it, you know, and interviews and shows and kind of performance. And
it's constant performance.
It's kind of being observed a lot, all that stuff. That I think it's easy for people to get. I don't know. I think it tweaks you a little bit. It tweaks your comfortability walking into a new. You know what the fucked up thing is? I'll tell you what it is. If you're ever lucky to have something succeed and you find yourself complaining like me, is walking into a room and in your subconscious thinking that everybody in the room already has an idea of who you are and already knows X, Y, Z about you, and you don't exactly know what they know. And, you know, that people kind of already, I mean, how weird is that? Like,
It sounds like more ambiguity.
that's weird. And this is like the producer in the group. Like, I'm not even like the, you know, I honestly feel like my experience was a lot more in proximity to that rocket ship, and partially on it in some ways and not on it in other ways. and not envious of being in those shoes oftentimes. But yeah, I guess my point being is that like, there's something so awesome about walking into a room and you're positive nobody knows who you are.
Yeah.
And you get to show them who you are versus walking into a room and you're
great.
bringing a bag of whatever with you. And nobody else has to do that.
That's the very opposite of the thing that we've been commenting on lately about clients who've listened to the podcast or watched videos, how much further along we are in the conversation when we jump in. You know, it's sort of the flip side. It's like, what are the benefits of people coming to you cold? Or you coming to someone cold?
Think about how unmediated this is. We all the ums and ahs. It's 2.5 hours long. It's completely raw. So there's no, as opposed to the guys do a 7-minute interview for MTV and then they pick the bit where you criticize someone's music video and they make that a 20-second thing. So like it's like what we talked about with Instagram, where there's someone mediating your output. There's someone choosing the sexy, saucy, controversial stuff. I mean, I'm painting a particular picture, but it's not. So I can see how that would be a burden as opposed to what we're doing, which is, you know, our audience is small, engaged, but they're getting a very real
Right, so the people in the room, their impression
and none of this is like, I mean, that's what it is,
right?
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
it's a game.
none of this is to complain, honestly,
No,
because I'm incredibly fortunate for everything. But it is to say that at the end of that super fortunate thing, I would say parts of me became more introverted.
Yeah,
and that's just real.
Where we landed, my friend and I, on the phone call, which is the same thing as you said. It's like we both agreed we're not actually more introverted, but we're far more careful where we spend our energy.
Yeah.
Like we can still do it. I'm probably better socially now than I've ever been. Yeah. If I need to turn it on for a room or 3 or 4 people, but I don't want to very often.
Right.
And also I sort of realized that it was a kind of an addiction.
Yeah.
A kind of a performative kind of way of avoiding stuff.
Yeah.
Like I'll just be bright and shiny and that will there's an element of control there.
Yeah.
And lately I'm sort of pulling back from that. So it's what you said. It's not just the energy thing.
Yeah.
It's more of a choice, you know?
Yeah. Well, there's also something to be said about opting in. You know what I mean? Like when you're an adult, especially going down like a career path, like all of this stuff you're kind of choosing to opt into or not choosing to opt into. And if we all romanticize or scratch our heads and go like, you know, did I XYZ more when I was X age? You know, think about how much stuff in your typical experience you don't actually have to opt into. It kind of just happens, from going through school to who's going to arrive, who's going to end up standing right in front of you. You know what I mean? That you didn't chase after. And so I don't know. I also think that there's something to be said about the fact that like the circumstances are apples and oranges too.
Yeah.
And part of that's just, it's just fucking harder when you're older.
It's different. It's certainly different. Yeah. So I had a different question, or maybe it's the opposite, which is, so we've explored some of the challenges of LA songwriting life or whatever. What's the thing in music, in the entire music space, gear, people, records, whatever? What's the thing in music that's most exciting to you right now? Not that you're necessarily involved in, the thing you look at and you're like, holy fuck, that's like, I was thinking about the last dangerous record I heard was the Kanye record, the Jesus record. I feel like that's the last record that scared me.
Yeah.
That felt truly dangerous. The Phoebe Bridgers record is the last record that made me giddy high.
I would echo that. So that's been, Phoebe Bridgers is probably the last one that I've just been like, that's just so good in so many different ways.
Yeah.
And I've been, I feel like I was kind of late.
But
so
like
good.
Streaming or like the whole space, what's the thing that you look at and makes you fucking...
Like, what about music?
Let's get nerdy.
Anything, kind of, yeah.
My answer is going to be real boring, but it's theory.
Particle theory?
No,
Music theory.
Music theory.
What's that?
And this kind of echoes, you can walk into a songwriting session and be like, wow, I came from like a hip hop band and this is different, you know what I mean? But what's been so cool, and I think that it was also like what you want. It's why I left the band that I was in, which is like wanting a challenge of something that you haven't done before, you don't know how to do. So I say theory because theory wasn't a huge component of anything that I was doing and didn't exactly really need to be. And the majority of the work with Macklemore. So hereafter, as I'm walking, like I'm not walking into pop songwriting sections and going like, fuck this, we have to start with beats. Like you know what I mean? I'm kind of walking in and I'm also going like, I would love to flex different muscles. Yeah. I would love to be able to write the way that you want to write. Yeah. I would love to be able to do me from a different angle. And
damn.
And this part is so, as much as you can feel like, woe is me, boo-hoo, I'm going, I wish I had been playing piano since I was 5 or whatever. I find this to actually be like the most cliche shit, where like the people that I know that are like incredibly good at violin or piano are like trying to be really good at producing. And all the people that are, you know what I mean? It's like you hit this point where like you've spent so much time in music from an angle that you got good at and it's comfortable. And now you're trying to figure out a different angle that you can also get good at so that you can stretch your arms wider. And that's kind of where I'm at. And so I would say like theory and keys and figuring out for me how to be able to do more stuff easily, if that makes sense.
So there was never going to be another first guest. This is like kindred spirit stuff. This is, I was listening to another Lisa Feldman Barrett interview. She's this neuroscientist that we're all obsessed with at the moment. And she was talking, I was standing on this overlook on my hike today after all the political bullshit that went down. I got pretty wound up. Went on this overlook that looks over the whole of LA, and I'm standing there and she's talking about, just right where I stopped to turn around, she's talking about learning being along with moving our bodies being the most metabolically expensive thing that we do. It takes the most resources out of what she calls our body budget, but it's also got the biggest payoff. And that sort of just that intrinsic human drive to learn and get better and challenge oneself to sort of build,
it's great to coast for stretches.
You need it sometimes.
You need to coast. And when you're in a good zone, coast. You know what I mean? Like if you're like, look at you, John. If you're really good at mixing and lots of people want you to mix and you're making great mixes, just fucking mix for a while. You know what I mean? Like just coast.
When you said the word coast, I actually thought exactly what you just said. I was like, damn, why don't I just allow myself to coast?
Just coast. I think coasting is good, and I think you'll know when you're done coasting.
Yeah.
And
I'm done.
Yeah. And you know what?
I think I finished it without knowing I was doing it.
Well,
seriously.
And I don't think it's easy not to coast. I don't think it's, because for me, when you're coasting on something awesome and then you're like, my soul is yearning to not coast. Then you're also inviting like learning curves and all this, all
the
this
amount
stuff.
of people when you build a team and you're working at scale like you guys were, the amount of people who are invested in you coasting gets higher. They're like, don't rock the boat here. Just keep,
Absolutely.
phone it in if you need to, because my percentage of that is good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why we get these artists,
It's
I
a
think,
sustainability issue.
It is, but it also sort of seems to predictably create atrophy and kind of things go. So many artists have that curve where as the team and the stuff gets bigger around them, the appetite for risk and change and learning goes down.
The collective appetite.
The team. So the voices around them are sort of saying, oh no, it's better when, keep it. This is working. 40,000 people loved it last night. What are you talking about?
Right.
Working with a new producer, or what are you talking about? The London Symphony Orchestra. You guys make hip hop, whatever,
Right.
So that urge to learn and challenge yourself. That's great.
Well, you need the stomach to face your limits.
Yeah.
To stumble and fall a bunch of times again.
Yeah.
After you've succeeded and done so well at something else. It always amazes me when people pivot and make career changes and go junior on purpose.
Yeah.
I
also think there's like an inevitability to it too. Everybody's going to want to shake it up at a certain point.
I don't know about that.
No,
I don't know about that.
No.
Well, hold on. I mean, I was just, I was watching, we're all obsessed with talking about Tenet recently. I mean, I was watching Tenet last night, and halfway in, I mean, I think about this pretty regularly, but I was dead serious last night, and I was going to bring it up today. Like, when do I start mixing movies? Like, I get more turned on by movies than I do music.
Yeah.
Very few songs turn me on, and a lot of movies get me going. Now, after hearing you talk about the magic of the movies and figuring it all out, like, will I lose interest in the movie industry? But I haven't done it yet. I want to be junior and just go mix a movie.
I think you should.
I just want to learn it.
Upstage.
Yeah.
Sit in.
I don't know how I'll handle the regulations on level, like having to not be able to move the volume knob because I like to mix loud. But other than that, I think I can handle it.
I think you should.
Mix
I
loud
think
movies.
that's tight.
I always thought that we would work on something together, that you would score a film and I'd engineer to mix it. I always thought we'd actually do that together.
And maybe I will. The coolest thing about scoring is you can be like 150 years old and do it.
Yeah.
And I also think you have to go to school for 150 years to be able to do it.
Well, I don't know. You look at Trent and Atticus, and
Yeah,
I mean, they went to
my
a
example. Yeah,
they went to a different kind of school, I guess.
It's true. Everybody,
but
countless examples.
But they're a great example.
On that note, I want Nolan to do a Bond film with Trent and Atticus scoring it. That was my vision with Tenet last night. I was like, when is he going to do Bond with them scoring it? Because I've been watching a bunch of David Fincher movies and hearing the Trent Atticus collab with him. It's such a perspective. It's such a dialed in collaboration. It's like, I think Nolan and them would get along really well, and it would take the Hollywood action love that he has, that he does quite well, and romantic, and one of the better I guess purveyors of that vision. He's I think they would add a level of mystery that would complement his time fucking with, So I actually want to hear them collab, and then I want to mix it.
Boom.
So I was thinking about
2021 planned.
Yeah, I was thinking about your graphic design origins, the MySpace world, and thinking, that it's super weird that one of the four people at the table virtually is a graphic designer all day, every day. And
Nice.
like, again, first guest couldn't have been anyone else.
Right.
So there's so many.
To be clear, I would not call myself a graphic designer now.
But what it's interesting when you started talking about that earlier, immediately the thing that came to mind was world builder.
World building.
which is
Yeah.
and it was like my brain fired with Michael, world builder, right? And then when you talked about LA songwriters earlier, I had a picture of a particular person you'll know, and the phrase, the word detachment lit up in my mind, like that sort of extroverted but super detached.
Yeah.
Like you could get run over in front of them, they're like, okay, on to the next session.
Right.
It's like that kind of thing where you make things, you make babies and give them away. It's like, here's, I don't, but the world
Could I
building
step in
thing.
for a sec?
Yeah, that's why I was trying to bring you in. Yeah.
So I'm reading this book. I just started it today, actually, by Peter Drucker. Right. He's sort of credited as the founder of modern management philosophies, and the book's called Managing Oneself. It's really fantastic, super easy read, really short, and it's a small book. It's like really nice to hold. And I opened the book, and I'm thinking about today's podcast in the back of my head, and so I'm trying to make connections, subconsciously. And there were two things that stood out, and I think it's just been kind of reverberating in my head during this interview. One of them is he kind of forms a few questions to ask yourself early on, and one of them is, how do you like to work? Not how do you like to work, technically, but how do you like to be positioned socially in the work that you're doing?
Yeah, that's a great
do you like to be this dictator in a situation, which is fine if that's how you like, you know what I mean? Or very subservient, yes, I'll do anything, or, taking extremes, right? And I thought it was a really interesting question, and it keeps coming up in my head. And I think we've been applying different lenses to it tonight, when asking you just about how you operate in the room. But I don't know if you've ever thought about this question, but either way, I'd love to hear your opinion of especially now in this phase of your career, thinking about how you feel best positioned.
That's very, very good question, and one that I think the more than anyone can answer that for themselves, the better. I think that I definitely don't like being positioned as in service to somebody else's thing. I think I just actually don't think I'm super good at that. There's some people that they're just really good at that, a super creative but supportive role. And I think that I'm too used to being in the group that's putting out the thing, that's just in my brain.
Yeah.
And how I've had the most practice. That's been the angle that I've most often been in the studio. Less that.
Not that.
Not that.
He says, there's a line in the book, he's like, more people know more about who they don't want to be.
Yeah, I think that's true.
And I was like, damn, that's so true.
That's true. I think
so. So if we're crossing that off the list.
Okay, that's crossed off the list.
Yeah.
There's definitely a part of me that gets a lot of energy from being in the position of leading the session. But I don't necessarily like to be in that position by forcing my way into it. I like to be in that position because it's desired. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
very,
totally.
And that's definitely from a place of insecurity, no question. Well, it comes from a place of that makes sense. That's what you've done forever. But also rather that comes from a place of security. Which is to say, when you are in the leadership role and you feel like that's everybody's preference, you feel pretty damn good about that. It's okay, well, better show up because everyone's kind of depending on you.
That's social clarity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But then you're kind of people are depending on you and your energy and your enthusiasm to lead something and lead an idea and include everybody in all of that different stuff.
Rise to all those challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. That is probably where I become the most effective. I become the least effective when I'm unsure whether I am preferred in the space. And sucks for me because that's a lot of you know what I mean? If you're walking into a lot of sessions, it reminds me of performing in New York or something. This isn't going to be the loosest crowd. This is a lot of people that are very invested in how they're coming across and being, I don't know, being important. Everyone's trying to be important. So I would say when you have sessions that you're unsure about, if there's any unsureness about that, or you're unsure in yourself that you can deliver what they're wanting or the position that's needing to be filled or whatever, that is when I do my worst work.
Right.
Within that,
Or no work at all.
yeah, I was
for
wondering
real.
within that,
Yeah.
there's kind of, and I know you've got a second question, Michael, or a second phrase from the book, so I don't want to forget that. But within that, there are kind of, I've been in the room certainly with two types of leaders. One is someone who's leading at all costs, whether they know what's up or they're just leading.
Yeah.
They're like that, kind of the dictator model. The other one is someone who very quickly emerges as a leader because they've got a good, maybe eye or ear for where the energy is.
Sure.
So like there's 3 conversations happening, there are 2 phone calls, and it's like someone, oh, whoa, what's that? Do that again.
Yeah.
And then sort of after 3 or 4 of those,
Yeah.
people are like, we're following him because he keeps finding energy.
Yes.
It's like this
Yes.
Spider and I have been talking a lot in our work about what we don't want to do is the client brings 1 unit of energy, we bring 1 unit of energy, and we make 2.
Yeah.
It's like we're trying to prospect and find
That's such a good way to put it.
find energy that suddenly comes from nowhere.
That person keeps finding energy.
Yeah,
like
like
that's so on point. And I actually think that describes people that do very well down here accurately. They're very good at finding energy. With and the people that do the best, I think, can do it in different genres with different people and different settings, and none of the particulars matter as much as the ability to find energy. And
You don't feel it describes you?
I think it does in some scenarios. I think there's other scenarios that I'm still getting there in this context with just myself, because I think it's frustrating when you know what you are, but you find yourself in a context that it's very difficult to be that person. And I've experienced that for sure. And I've experienced the opposite, where you find yourself in a scenario where you're like, I'm kicking ass right now. You know what I mean? And like, so, it's hard. This is a place that'll beat you up too. Because there's so many people doing this and there's so much of it being done, and it's endless. There's so much music and so much saturation and stuff that you're exposed to.
It seems like there are just more and more places for music to go now. It's like just
Yeah.
endlessly growing. Like
You have to be really, 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 really intentional not to bring into your workplace with you a whole bunch of other people's shit while you're trying to do yours.
Yes.
Like that's new. You know what I mean? Like that's pretty new. Yeah, I mean, you painted the visual the other day of like, or painted the visual earlier of just everybody having their phones out and whatever, and like, all the stuff that's easy to criticize or comment on or whatever. But like, it's true that you're absorbing all of these different things as you're trying to do your thing. And
a fire hose of input
yeah,
when you're trying to output.
And I think like we don't recognize how that's playing a role. You know what I mean? Like that plays a role too.
No question.
It's limiting output bandwidth.
One of the second note on my page for
And
tonight.
I say that to say, sorry,
Yeah.
for the people that can find energy, which I think is such a dope way to put it. I think all of these things matter. I think, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I think how they're walking into a room, how they're looking at music, how they're looking at what different people have to offer, and how can something come together here? How can I hear or catch something, be open to something that's a place to start, that's a good place to start, and then run with that to something that is good enough to walk out of here with. And how can I do that often
Yes.
with
Yeah.
strangers? You
It
know what I
always
mean?
felt like catching a wave to me.
Yes.
Trying to position yourself, and then when the wave comes, to be able to ride.
Yes.
Yeah, land it,
And
yeah.
yes. And so I don't know. I think that a lot of that is instinctive to people that are very fucking good, that they have those ingredients in them for sure. And then I think some people have these long seasons in their lifetimes of having that show up, that the right ingredients are there kind of at the time or whatever. I don't know. Not to get all meta.
No, that seasons. No, I have a note for tonight about seasons. It was on my notes. The question I had on the page, the second question was boredom. Are you bored enough? Are people getting bored enough? Is there? Are they turning?
We talked about this over chess today.
Yeah, turning off the input.
Definitely not getting bored enough.
Michael, you had 2 notes from that book. I really want to hear the second one.
Yeah. He says, we will have to place ourselves where we can make the greatest contribution, and we will have to stay mentally alert and engaged during a 50-year working life, which means knowing how and when to change the work we do. And I read that and I was like,
this person is
fucking beautiful.
This person figured it out. They figured it out.
But he's talking about seasons. That's seasons right there. When is it change?
Yeah.
It's the how and when, and I read that and I was like, damn, that is so freeing. Like I remember, it's funny. I'm hearing your story. I'm relating it to mine so much. Not musical family, started with design for bands and MySpace and the whole thing. I built a career in design, managing people, leading teams, corporate America, that kind of thing. And I, like 2 years ago, left and was like, going to go out on my own, produce design on my own. And so, it's been a lot of finding my own self. And I'm like, wait, did I just like swim up current unnecessarily? Like what, like why is this happening? And I'm like, because it definitely feels like I'm swimming up a current, and the current almost gets faster the harder I swim. So I'm reading this book, and like when that line was just so clear to me, where it's like, he's like, yeah, you're gonna be working like 50 years, so it's more about how and when, not if. And I was like, great, thank you for that. I don't want to dive too deep into any area, obviously, that you don't feel like comfortable talking about, but the how and when. How much of an action plan did you have saying, all right, I'm ready to transition into this second phase of my life? Maybe it was your third or fourth phase at this point, but like, was there a lot of thought behind it? Was it more abrupt?
Yeah, it's a good question. In hindsight, I think I did not have an action plan in like the long term, which is to say I didn't have hey, I thought a lot about this and this is my new 5-year plan. Like I didn't have that. And, leaving something that you've been in for your whole adult life with a small group of people for a long, working with the same people that you love, all of them a lot. It would be naive to think that you aren't going to be naive about, what, that's stupid, but more like it would be hard to predict that would feel like the current is going against you heavily. Because to leave something that you're really comfortable in, that you've learned so much about, that you've thrived in, is leaving your most comfortable place to do something else. And I think that in order to do that and make the leap, there has to be certain level of ignorance that it's going to be easier than it will. You know what I mean? Like you have to be pretty optimistic that it's like, there's good things over there and I'm going to go see what those are. And I think for a lot of people, it proves to be challenging to shake shit up and to do something else. And it sometimes, it'll change your perspective too, where you'll value the stuff, that comfort and that, what you were a part of or where you got to work or who you got to work with, from a different angle than you did before, which is awesome. But then, I think once you shake it up, you kind of also recognize like there is no way to shake it up without it being uncomfortable. So that becomes a reality that you're living in. And then and then you're exploring and figuring out, I mean, and it sounds like in your case, taking your talents in design and applying them toward a totally, different purpose or different projects, or doing it for yourself versus for other people or whatever. And then you're figuring out how to make that thrive. So for me, I didn't have a 5-year plan of that. I didn't even, there was no intention of something abrupt. But also to leave something that was, so much, it included so much for me, my community, my job, my creativity, the same person I was working with forever, all of that stuff. Yes.
What about your identity?
My identity, all of that stuff. For even if I'm departing it in a non-abrupt way, and it makes sense, and there's value in it, and there's wisdom to it, and it's scary and exciting or whatever, it's still drastic. And I had never quit a band before, like, you know what I mean? I'd never done that. So I also had no idea how drastic that would be. And also it's like, until, if you're in an indie group up in a metropolitan city that's like not connected to the music industry at all, it isn't until you get here that you realize you know nothing about it. You know what I mean? Like, so I also think that the way that you just put it, which is like, man, it feels like I'm swimming upstream and the currents getting stronger and stronger. It's almost like the more that I'm learning about the river I've gone down, the more I realize that, like, damn, there's a lot to do here. There's a lot to try. And yeah, so for me, that was it a few years ago of starting that journey, where I had never done a session, like a writing session. We never had writers, like, really ever.
Yeah.
I was still kind of like living on planet, like, damn, like this many songs are written by other people, and then, you know what I mean? Like, I was like, you know what I mean? Like, I was still just so removed from the business of music. And
try coming here from a tiny town in Ireland.
Oh, and talk about a country that supports the arts like none other. Like,
wait, what?
You're a musician? Let us give you $5,000 a year.
Yeah.
No, so I appreciate and I empathize, I think, with what you're saying. That for me, it was almost like that it wasn't all figured out for me in the choice to kind of take a leap. And I think that what I learned about what I needed to learn, that list got long, as it went. But I would also say that that my most successful years that I've had, I learned the least. Period.
Financially successful, you mean?
Successful.
Commercially successful.
Commercially, your thing worked. Successful.
Yeah.
Right.
I
had a lot of fun. I did a lot of things. I did learn, a lot of things that are, things you can learn. But I'm just saying, in terms of like my craft, those are not peak years of growth for me. Living through the success of the thing that you've made. So that's why I hit a point, I think, where you're itching for your curiosity about what can I do with these things that I do. And yeah, so I would also say that the stretches of time that have been the most difficult for me, I have undoubtedly learned the most. Partially personally, as a dad now and a husband and all of that stuff, that is time you're not often afforded when you're living through an album cycle or whatever. That side of it, but also my craft. It's like, I wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation about like what pop sessions are like and like why I wish I was just a super sick piano player, like whatever. You know, I wouldn't know any of that if I was just continuing to have the same creative fucking, I make beats. You know what I mean? Like, I'm interested in more. And I think that to get there requires some discomfort.
Wow, there's so much I want to zoom in on. So, you know, I'm thinking, so the other night I run a monthly meetup with designers, and someone asked me, you know, why did you leave your job? I kind of had a very similar answer. And really the part that I fast forwarded to was everything I learned since leaving and the things that I had no idea would be the advantages of being in this new place. Yeah. And I'm wondering the same for you. Like, what have you discovered on this new stream that you're swimming up that you're like, wow, this is not what I thought would be there, and I'm even more excited, whether that's about yourself or about your craft or anything really?
That's a great question.
Surprises, yeah.
I am really used to my best friends being people that I work with. But break that down a little. I'm really used to working with my friends. And I'm less used to there being work and there being friends.
Yes.
If that makes sense, which I think any creative can kind of relate to. But I feel like that's been, in the last few years, it's been proven a bit that what I yearn for still musically is to like the people and respect the people that I'm working with. And what I still find exhausting is just, you know, getting up with somebody because I need something and I don't like them and whatever. So I've learned that there's a lot of things that I am interested in. Like John, you said earlier, like, oh, I thought that you'd do a movie and we'd do the score and whatever. Me too. You know what I mean? Like, I've learned how I feel like I know better now than 4 years ago, realistically, what it takes to score a fucking movie. And that I could never do it right now. Like, period. At least in the way that I want to. So part of learning too is learning the things that you still want to, being able to recognize the things that you don't quite have them where you want them to be, but you know what you want them to be. And I feel like that becomes more obvious the more that you get exposed and actually understand more about the stuff that you're trying to do. It's like, I don't know, mixing, since you guys are all engineer folks. You know, it's the classic. It's like somebody with really good ears that knows what a really good mix sounds like, but just has no fucking clue how the fuck you would ever get there. You know what I mean? I think it's like seeing things and starting to understand more of the pieces of what goes into those amazing final outputs. And then you're actually sitting with yourself going, do I want to log the time to be able to do that? And it's almost like you're first recognizing how long that would actually take to get to the level that you want to be.
Again, choosing where you want to put your energy. You're more mindful of it.
Well, that's a kind of aim. And also I'm thinking
but everything I'm saying sucks though. I gotta say that because when you're just fucking ignorant to all of this shit, that's when you're the fucking freest to just like, I'm sitting here going like, oh, but it's film, it's blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Like to score a film, like my theories, you know, to be able to convey any emotion and just think of it and put it on the fucking page and notate for an orchestra, you know, whatever it is.
But you know how to lead and put the pieces together to make that happen. You
no,
don't
I
have
understand.
to have it all in your back.
I'm just laughing, going like, no, you don't. You can just go score a movie. You know what I mean? And whatever happens, happens. You know what I mean? Like
you can.
Exactly. Like my whole story would be the complete opposite of what I'm saying right now. You know what I mean? But I should still say that the more that I have learned being down here inside of this industry, which I was not inside of before, the more that I have, I think, an accurate understanding, or just a different understanding of what a typical producer is doing in Los Angeles right now, how that's similar and different to what I was doing as a producer in my group, to what a typical songwriter is doing, directors are doing, how music videos typically work in between labels and writers sending in treatments, all this different stuff that
you're seeing.
It changes the way that you dream.
Well, you're seeing,
I think.
you're seeing new canvases, new paints, new brushes that you've never seen.
Yeah.
And you're seeing different combinations of them in every way,
Yes.
So it gives you ideas for new things.
Yeah, the trick is to continue to be curious and inspired within that. That's the trick. That's actually the hard part, is to not have that land as a daunting weight of just how incredible all of these things are. Each little fucking job that all of us are doing is like a whole fucking thing in and of itself. So, it's a trade-off of sorts where, like, if me now was talking to me 5 years ago, I would like walk circles around you know what I mean?
Course.
Like, but me 5 years ago would be like, fuck you, I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, I'm dope. You know what I mean? So, it's all a trade, but I do think, I gotta go back to what you're saying earlier, the person in the room that finds the energy, like that shit will forever be it. That's it.
The common thread with people that I've met who've really thrived in LA is this sort of, whether it was preternatural or whether they learned it, is people who realize that you don't let LA define you.
Totally.
You build a world here. You make LA can be whatever you want it to be.
Yeah.
New York is is New York. You plug into New York, it's the dominant thing.
Yeah.
Whereas LA is like there are people living massively different lives 2 blocks from each other.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing. I didn't expect how much it is culturally different from spot to spot. Like, now that I've been living here, the cliche, very critical view of like what Los Angeles is, like from a Seattle person's perspective of like all the reasons why this is the worst. I could like pinpoint the neighborhoods that like pretty well embody that.
Yeah.
And their particular spots. And like, that's
Look
all
at
good.
you, Santa Monica.
Yeah, it's like, you can go there. No, I mean.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, but what you don't know is, one, this place is huge. And two, there's all these different little cultures. And some of them don't really feel like LA at all. Like, I'm over in Atwater Village, and it doesn't feel like a West Hollywood. You know what I mean? It's like, it feels, I like that whole area, all those neighborhoods that are side by side, they reminded me the most of where I came from, just culturally speaking.
Yeah, coming from, I'm on my 11th year this year in LA. I didn't fall in love with LA until I explored it culturally, like Jonathan Gold expressed in his film through cuisine and learning the pockets of different immigrant groups, right? And then just how rich of a melting pot this city really is. And so is New York, but again, it's a certain type of human that wound up in New York from all these cultures as well, versus LA is like, we moved in here and we made a restaurant to feed our community, and then other people started going to those and learning more from each other. And there, I have a rich love affair for it for that reason.
Yeah,
I don't share it for the full on music industry that we've been talking about most of this conversation. But the city itself has it all.
Yeah,
it has nature right outside. It has it has long walks. It has long drives. It has water. It has
just doesn't
desert.
have humidity.
It just it's starting to.
Yeah.
It's kind of starting to.
I guess when we talk about the music industry, to put a point on what I was saying earlier, the people I've met, been lucky enough to be in the room with a bunch of people who've thrived, they're the ones who defined.
Yes.
They defined what it was going to be for them. They didn't let the LA music business, because if you're the LA music business is so many things all of the time. It's so much noise that if you try and follow the fucking rabbit, if you're the greyhound, there's 50,000 rabbits and they're all moving in every direction at every speed. There is no catching it. And you're surrounded by fucking very fast greyhounds. So, you know, if you play that game where you have to sort of, the people who seem to do well, it's not 100% true. I know people who can play the game, whatever the game is we've described, or the other games that run in parallel. But the people who really do well, the Trents and people like that, they're just defining their own lane. You know, they're building a world and creating a sort of letting everyone come to them. And it takes balls,
well,
like
it's
big
that
balls.
identity thing. Like, and that's why the graphic design thing is so interesting to me, because graphic design is all about identity. You know, and asserting your identity into the world, asserting your best interest into the world, right? Creating spaces where you are socially positioned in a way that's best suited to you, and, you know, all of that sort of thing. I think it's, when Rory and I do consultations with clients, it's very interesting to me when we talk to recording artists, all these questions about identity come real easy. Because that's the job, right? It's sort of expressing yourself, right, into the world. Audio engineers are not necessarily disposed in this way. I think like the link between identity, graphic design, music, and self-knowledge, it seems like the recipe for the Los Angeles choose your own adventure experience is like, you need those things in order to do it. You know, you need that inner guide to give you the confidence to sort of create that here.
I think that's true.
So
I'm curious in terms of identity in Macklemore during that time period. Were you helping to define that identity? How were you helping to define that identity? Was it even something that was spoken about overtly?
Yeah, for sure. Well, what's cool is in the very beginning, you're just partially capturing it and partially inventing it. And then as time goes on, you're either continuing to capture it and continuing to make it compelling, or you're trying to reinvent it. So to me, I mean, that identity it's in everything. It's in the lyrics, it's in the beat choices, it's in, you know, the merch, it's in the show design and the fonts, it's in everything, that who you're interviewing with, who you're featuring, who's featuring you, all this different stuff. So yeah, my role, I think, in the identity, partially, I think there was the whole space for my identity that I obviously was very important to me. My identity within the music, the musical choices, and the style, and the thing, you know, all the ideas that I wanted to do, whether they be musical or visual, but also the capturing of the identity and the presentation of the identity, specifically, I think, for an artist that is writing all of their own songs and that is writing songs that are often pretty literal and pretty directly related to their experience in their life and their politics and their a lot of personal issues. So in a weird way, like I don't know, like the capturing and presenting an identity that has very little separation between the person and the artist, but then uniquely having this same individual make other songs that have a drastic separation between the person and the artist is an interesting thing if you're taking the whole enchilada and putting these, you know, really personal, really real songs side by side with with the artist projecting a totally different thing with a totally different tone. It's unique. It adds up to an identity that I think, you know, in a transparent way, I would say like it was both a major captivating aspect of Macklemore and the identity, and also the most difficult thing to wrestle with. To have an artist that is having a bunch of fun and you know, having the least serious type stuff, you know, 2 tracks later be way more honest on record than most, you know? And that being, you know, not typical. That being
that range.
Yeah, but also as the producer, the friend, the artistic, you know, companion of that, tricky at times to figure out how best to present or to capture everything and have it all be, you know, well received side by side with all those pieces. Yeah. So I would also say that for me, that was both the most exciting and at times one of the most difficult parts of being in the group. Exciting. Like, you know, imagine if I told you you can only do design for one company, but that company's going to make all this different shit, you know? Like you're going to have like you're gonna have stuff that is meant to make you think, meant to make you cry, and stuff that is meant to make you laugh or make you dance, and you get to design all that stuff. But I need you to make them all great and make it all make sense. Make it all okay that the same company's doing all of this stuff. You know what I mean? That would be tight. As a designer, that would be like, this lets me do so much amazing stuff, and this is so fulfilling.
That's like where producing and branding sort of overlap, and Michael and I have been in this space for the last couple of years, because, you know, my background is first as an artist and then a producer, and kind of at this parallel tracks, and bringing my intuitions around production to, like, say, art direction for an Instagram channel or something. You're drilling down for that. Like when you produce an artist, you drill down as deep as you can go till you find those universal elements that are common to everyone. Yeah. And the way I described is then you come back out, as you get to know them, you come back out and you bring the souvenirs of what makes them special. Yeah. And then you put all of that on display. Yeah. The way you write the melodies, the way, you know, if you're writing as well, and, you know, the sounds, the arrangements, all that. Who you cast, you know, to help, all that stuff. All those decisions sort of guided by that identity. Thinking as a recording artist who's also a producer, in your case, Ryan, the branding, like the challenges there, what was it like getting everyone on the same page? Was it hard to reach consensus on what to do? Was it that you guys were taking so many creative risks that it was hard to know if it fit into the Macklemore and Ryan Lewis universe, or if it was an offshoot or a spin-off of some kind? Like, was there like a primary challenge on the branding identity front? Or was it like a big sort of soup of
you got like
big ideas?
I think you got some. I think the quick answer is no for the first whole chunk of it. Why would there be? You know, when you're inventing and capturing initially all the first, you know, it's a blank slate mostly, and you get to just keep making stuff. Then no, I don't think either of us found it incredibly complicated in the beginning. Later on, you're making new stuff to go in addition to a bunch of stuff that whether it's going to sit side by side with previous stuff.
Yeah, now you're in relationship with an audience.
Now you're in relationship to an audience and you're in relationship to a previous understanding.
A kind of legacy.
Yeah, and I think for me that didn't serve me well as the producer as the creative. I don't think it serves anyone well in terms of like any type of sophomore. Anytime you're walking in and everything you're about to make is in relationship to something else you just did that went really well. I don't think that's easier.
I think that puts pressure.
Yeah, I think whether you're a
people.
film director, whether you're the singer, whatever it is, I think it's always more difficult to come in and figure out the next thing in relationship to the thing that people
because
like.
it's the first time you've done something
For
in
sure.
relation to.
But to brands, in terms of what you're saying, trying to figure out, one, what do you want to do? What's exciting to you? What gives you energy? What makes you excited? And then two, you're thinking about how that relates to what you've done. And then for me, when I said it didn't serve me very well, I feel like you walk in, I walked into the second one putting a lot more rules around what I was doing subconsciously in my head that didn't exist before for me. And a lot of that comes from just intense absorption of external input. It's impossible. It's like if you put out something and it gets widely digested and you get all this different
all manner
stuff,
of feedback.
your own understanding of the thing that you've made is gonna evolve and change and whatever. And so it's kind of impossible not to take that with you into the studio, going into your next thing. And I think every personality is really different, and I think some people, they just don't struggle with that.
How did you deal with, like, again, this sounds like an avalanche of feedback.
Yeah.
How do you decipher the valuable feedback from the useless or negative? Like, I don't want to say negative because that's not the word, or useless or destructive
stop reading
feedback.
You stop reading it.
You just avoid feedback.
That's
altogether.
either my answer or my second answer is I don't.
You mean you don't get mixed notes on YouTube comments? You don't collate
That's
them.
That's not what I'm getting.
No,
at,
I know.
really.
Yeah.
It's not. Critical.
No, I understand. I
It's-
think it's really tough to stop listening when everybody tells you you're great. It's very difficult in this day and age in particular. You're gonna get an indigestible amount of feedback on what you're doing, kind of regardless of what you do. You open up a coffee shop, you're gonna get some Yelp review. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You're gonna get that person that.
But that's the
hates
struggle.
it,
Is
you know
how
what I
do
mean?
you discern? Because we need feedback in order
and
to grow. So
I
how do
just don't trust the internet like that. As in, I don't personally believe that the way in which information is being distributed and consumed is designed well to be valuable,
to be productive?
Yes, I think that like the potential of it being not beneficial to you is probably higher than it being beneficial to you. That being said, like if you look at what you guys have done, be it this podcast or having people here at the studio getting together, or these things that I think when they dreamed up the internet, these were things that popped in their head. You know what I mean? Like ways of connecting in meaningful ways, I think is super helpful. But in terms of like just jumping on and reading a whole bunch of shit about what you did, I don't know.
There's also your
I don't really
experience
have a
on
positive
stage.
answer for that.
I mean, there's a lot of forms of
Sure.
feedback. So, like, if you perform
That's a better
song-
question.
Yeah.
That's a better question. It's very interesting to make an album and then to go out on tour and be surprised by what songs work super well in some way and what songs that maybe you imagined would work in some way, shape, or form didn't, or they were different than what you thought, or whatever.
It reminds you it's not entirely up to you.
Totally.
Yeah.
And you start, if you start off a brand new tour, you have your first kind of set list, which will not be what it ends up kind of being. And from there, like, you start to see people, reacting to songs kind of for the first time and seeing what works well live and what doesn't. And so what I would also say is outside of trying to design the best show that you can by, looking at all of those songs and which ones people really like, you're going to take that with you into the studio for your next album as well. You have stuff in the back of your mind. Like, it's not any different than the music video. What I was saying earlier, where I was like, once you know that you're probably going to be shooting videos and you have experience with music videos, you start to think about music videos much earlier on, maybe when you're just starting the song or there's just one line or something. And it's the same thing, I think, with live performance, where you might have a song that you're like, this isn't a single, but I'm still excited because this shit will be amazing live. And that fuels you and gives you some energy to treat it almost like it is a single for you. So I think that live performances is really interesting in terms of how it changes what you
unless you're
creating.
in New York, in which case you don't get any feedback.
In which you're just going to think all your songs suck.
So considering that our audience at this point, though striving to be more multidisciplinary, is engineering, I'm curious if you could riff for a few minutes on your relationship with it, what you value, what you value from it, what you look for in it, why you on that sophomore record came to me or came to others that we wound up shooting out for and winding up working together, but. Why you, though I thought you were fantastic at it, thought it was a missing piece of the puzzle that you wound up,
Yeah. I think when anybody first starts making music, especially if you're making music and production is part of the creative process, as it is for most people at this point, where you're recording as you're writing or whatever. I think it's easy early on to pass your stuff off to other people, especially if you've spent a good amount of time doing some production on your own or getting, or mixing on your own, mixing your own stuff. I think it's easy to pass it off to other people and be kind of disappointed.
Yeah.
That, because mixing is hard and it's craft and I always say that there's stylistic mixing and then there's like sonic mixing. And that helps me separate what I'm talking about a little bit. Where like what I would say is, if you're sending like a demo in and it's like dope, and it feels right, is that like maybe like I feel like I stylistically mixed it the way that I want, even though I know sonically it sounds like fucking trash. You know what I mean? And then some mixing engineer has to somehow like make it not sound actually like trash, but leave all of that style in. You know what I mean?
Totally.
And that's so I say that to say that like when I first experimented with having other people mix my songs, I didn't like it. And a lot of that was, I don't know, style, probably a little bit of control stuff. And so I mixed The Heist, and I didn't really know what I was doing because I didn't have like a engineering or, like mixing or production mentor. But I had good ears and had done it a lot. I'd done a lot of attempting to mix, years of it. And so I tried sending some of the heist out to be mixed, and I just didn't like it.
Yeah.
And so, but what I would say is that I also didn't love my mixes on the heist.
Yeah.
I wasn't there was never this, I must mix it because I'm the best. It was more I must mix it because I can't think of a better option than that I'm going to like more than me trying. And then the second time, I felt like I had more access, kind of. I felt like I had more resources. I actually kind of felt like, this is going to be kind of weird to say, but I didn't, when we were making the heist, we weren't like a known group.
Yeah.
So the second time I felt like I was producing something for a known group.
Yeah.
Versus the first time I didn't. So in a weird way, it was almost like it was okay the first time that I mixed it. Versus the second time, it sort of felt like I knew that I knew this time that it would go to radio. I knew that it was going to predictably end up in a place that I should try to get it sonically the best that I can. But still struggled with just trying to find something that I liked how it sounded and I liked the workflow. And then, of course, I met you. And part of that was how much better it sounded, for sure. But then the other part of it was workflow. And was that, my least favorite experience, personally, I'm not going to name names here, but but sending my tracks off to be mastered and it going to some assistant of somebody else.
Yeah.
And then you get it emailed back through their mastering software. And I fucking hated that so much. You know what I mean? To not be able to get on the phone with the person that
happens too often.
Yes. And so I think what I didn't know I was looking for was just somebody that had the ability to collaborate in some level of the same, to the same extent that I would expect from somebody coloring a music video or something, you know what I mean? Or
hands-on.
Hands-on, but something that
but a contributor.
Yeah. Well, if I thought about how mixing was done before, it was burning a CD, going out to a car, driving around, making little notes, going back inside, doing those notes, burning it to another CD, putting it back in the car, driving back around
1997.
with two people who aren't engineers, and until you're damn, that sounds pretty good. And then it goes to mastering, and anything that's wildly horrible, the mastering engineer will fix. And
so not the way it goes.
You get the style in there that you want, but you don't actually get the rest, which is
you don't get it to hang together on every
You don't
system.
get all the things that of course you want. So but to go from I'm used to making notes, going into a car, driving around, having a long-ass conversation, coming back inside, making notes, going back out, scratching our heads, no, the other one was better. You know what I mean? All this stuff. So, John, it's like doing Praying with you. We did almost 20 mixes.
21.
And I used the fourth mix.
Yep. Yep. But we did 21.
And we did 21.
We did 17 of Downtown.
And we did too many mixes of all of these songs.
Yeah. Some on a console, some in a, we tried everything.
But what that is for me is somebody that's really invested in those songs.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I pulled my hair out about every little fucking thing in this. And you should too. You know what I mean? Like, and so when you can't explain why mix 4, which mix 4 isn't as, it has some problems in comparison to mix 17. There's something about it that just sits fucking right, close enough, good to go. You know what I mean?
That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
But you also got to be able to talk to somebody that you trust.
You need the dialogue.
Yes. And so that's why you're obviously very, very good at mixing, John. But I also think that that's another reason why you've thrived is in a weird way, the mixing engineer kind of has to executive produce the producer a little bit, which is just to say, like, the producer has just gone through hell to bring you this, and you have to help them be done.
Yeah.
And sometimes, and if you want to go back to commercial songwriting production shit, nobody cares about anything or whatever the fuck. You know what I mean? I'm talking about an album you just made and songs that are singles and stuff that, like, it's yours, and yeah, so I don't know. I think that's my experience. I mean, engineering, I didn't even answer your question. Like,
No, you did better.
okay, well, that's what I thought of. So there you go.
No, I think you're expressing something that we touch on a lot, which is the collaborative nature of it, and it seems to be more of an elusive human behind a black box, not a glass window. You can't see into the process. Like, you either get what you like it or you don't. And learning from Tony Maserati, can we get on the call? Can we get on the phone? Like, that's how you approach it. It's collaborative. Mixing is equally as collaborative to co-producing, just with a different credit. Yeah. And I'm trying to argue and present the fact that it should be a coveted role, and you should want to be the mixer, not mix until you get the production credit, then become a producer. I think that role and that leadership role and that trust building with producers is even more important now than ever with bedroom producers and maintaining that vibe but elevating it just that much where you're like, oh, that's it, a little bit less grainy or more grainy if you need it to be, whatever the aesthetic is, but just a slightly elevated, more crystalline version of that. Yeah. And I think we formed that pretty quickly. I have one actual story to say that I don't know if you remember. Actually, you probably remember this, but after we got the first one across, which is Brad Pitt's Ugly Cousin, which is just like
love that song.
Love that
old Jimmy.
Fat bottom 808, like very, very, very obvious sounding record. And then you were like, the next one's 4 songs in one, and it was Downtown. It was like once I got the gig and we were working together, and I did. I have a
vague memory. I don't know what I think of this of just walking out of a dentist office talking to you.
I remember that.
And I still didn't really know you yet.
Yeah.
But I think we were talking about that song, and I was just coming out of the dentist. I was like, I don't remember. That's it.
Well,
that's actually all I remember.
But say coming
from the last 5 years.
Coming from that record, which was approved, I think we were Improv 2 was the one that we went mastering. Downtown 17 versions. The first version, I mixed it like I mixed the first record with like fat bottom, kind of tubey, like luscious and big and girthy. And for Downtown, you were like, I see what you did. You made it all tubey and this, and you called out all the intention that I did. And you said, but I wanted more like a high and tight, like Neve sounding thing, like a transistory, like punchy high thing. And I was like, oh, sick, I got it. I'll get you another one by tonight. Yeah. And like, we just got it because you met me at my intention. You were like, I see what you did. I don't fuck with that for this, but that's not the point. The point is I didn't give you what you wanted, but you understood why I took it to a place. And I was like, that is one of those moments where you're like, that's who I want to work with. Yeah. Not necessarily Ryan Lewis or Macklemore, just those are the kinds of people you want to work with that acknowledge what you did, even if they don't fuck with it. Yeah. It's like when you get the mix note and it's just negatives, but they say they like it, but it's all the wrong things you did. Like say what you like acknowledge the intention first is all I mean.
But part of that is having the language for it. Sure. Which is why I think your job, I think at times can take such an incredible amount of patience when you're talking with people that care as intensely as I have, but don't exactly know what they're hearing other than it's not what they wanted.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all.
I love the mystery. I love trying to figure it out.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't know. I think the more that you can, especially as a producer, it's like why I brought up theory earlier, where it's like the more languages you can kind of speak as to be useful in what you're saying, the better off you are. You know what I mean? So I don't know. That's why when I think of like the violin player trying to like learn how to produce, that's almost like you don't need to become the best producer ever, but you would benefit from being able to talk to a producer so they can actually make whatever the fuck you're thinking of.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't know. I see that between, all of these things that are connected, kind of all have their own, I don't know, time it takes to be able to be an effective communicator to the person you're talking to. And then patience on the other side for the person that isn't getting very clear feedback, yet still has to press forward.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
I don't know.
getting access to people that do have the words is a big piece, right?
Totally. Yeah. But I don't know. A lot of people that are fucking great don't have any words. They don't know how to say anything, and they're short, and I just don't like that. Whatever, fine.
Yeah.
But I think particularly with mixing's such a wild thing. It's like, let me take your painting and slightly like fix the colors and like,
No, it's emboldening. The colors are already there.
I know, but I'm just saying like
it's adding a bit more vibrancy to the existing colors. It's not always changing the colors. I wouldn't want to change the color.
It's understanding the intention and making sure the intention comes across in as many playback systems as possible.
Yes.
I think it's actualizing the intention.
Yes, exactly.
That's what I think it is. Because I think, and I don't think
rendering
you've actualized the intention personally until it's sonically and musically performing in a way that is great.
Yes.
That doesn't mean it has to be sonically whatever, like a fucking pop record or something. It just has to be sonically achieving what it's trying to
appropriate.
do.
Sonically appropriate, yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. I think I've always thought of mixing that way because it's like, what do people who don't know what they're doing do? They like slap on fucking crazy compression and like huge EQ boost, like all this different crazy shit
strokes.
that you slowly like learn all the stuff you're not supposed to do. So I don't know. It's a weird job as a mixer to take something that has all these problems and actualize what makes it great and remove all the problems.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The intention.
Our sort of working mission statement for audio engineers is to maximize human connection. So that is the bottom line.
Yes.
All of those things sort of fit into that.
Yeah.
And a mix that doesn't speak with reasonable consistency, in a mono overhead at the grocery store or in the car on the AirPods, then like you say, it kind of isn't a complete package. If
it's not actualized.
If it's a pop song and they hear it 3 times, but the 3 times it feels different, that you don't have that sort of pattern, that build up of sort of that connection.
Well, you can't rely on the recording of the song to deliver in each environment it's going to be placed.
Yes.
Which
performance can be.
That's like the line in which I know I'm not going to be a mixing engineer.
Mm-hmm.
The moment that you're thinking about like the utility of it, that's how I see it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the utility of like, it's just so impressive. It's like all the little things that you do, knowing everything it's going to be put up against.
Yes.
That's
the job.
The trade-offs.
And a mix engineer optimizes their body's relationship to a monitoring system that represents the whole world forever.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They're optimizing their whole life for that.
Yeah.
That's hard to do if you're doing writing sessions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mix engineers get a lot of reps in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I have another one that I really kind of wanted to get out because I've never actually talked to Ryan about this. And And well,
we never talked about this,
but I'm super. We all are at this table, but I'm super interested in, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with the effective altruist movement. Kind of the idea that you would join a community and commit 10% of your income to effective charities and places to do good with your money, and that have been tried and true and tested and where the funds are going. And you have a 30/30 project. What is it? Is it still a thing? And what's your relationship with that part of your, I guess, philanthropy?
Yeah. So the 30/30 project came to a conclusion where we actually we finished.
Mm-hmm.
So that's amazing.
Wow.
I'll tell you guys what we finished.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah.
So in 2014, wow, my mom was nearing the 30-year mark of surviving with HIV. And she unfortunately got infected in 1984 when she hemorrhaged giving birth to my oldest sister and got a blood transfusion. And did not find out until a few years later.
Wow.
When she found out, she was only given a few years to live, basically. So a big, very much shaped my childhood, but also my life in some ways. It was a big, unusual kind of thing, but miraculously, she lived. So when she was nearing kind of the 30-year mark of surviving, she wanted to do something, kind of to commemorate it, and as well as all the kind of friends that she's lost along the way to this disease. So, and she's done she did public speaking for a decade probably, and has always kind of been involved in the HIV/AIDS community, but this was kind of different. So she was, at the time, already volunteering with a nonprofit called Construction for Change, which basically builds infrastructure. And almost like, if you can imagine like nonprofit construction almost, coming in, hospitals, community centers, all these different kind of things internationally that need infrastructure and don't have it. So what she ended up doing is, in teaming with them, our family launched this idea to build 30 medical clinics around the world, specifically in spots that have either high HIV/AIDS or other like life-threatening diseases like malaria or tuberculosis. And each of those medical centers basically teams up with a nonprofit of doctors and healthcare that's already on the ground in that space but doesn't have anywhere to work from. So some of these places were crazy, like people walking distances to get to the nearest hospital. People, death rates from something that should be a disease that you can live with at this point, crazy. So it became this big thing that lasted for 5 years, that my whole family, but specifically my mom and my sister Teresa and my wife a bit worked on. And they did it. And they funded 30 medical clinics in I couldn't name all the countries, a lot of places.
Yeah, wow.
With a lot of different other nonprofits. So very cool.
How has that kind of impacted your kind of availability for generosity in life? Is that something that comes natural to you and you wanted to participate, or did you feel some sort of we have to do this because of our success? Is that something that has always been with you? Is that to give
That's
back?
a good question. I don't think I felt like at the time of like having a bunch of success, like that means that you have to like launch something. Like there's so many, there's like endless places that need help.
Yeah.
You know, there's anything, you know, there's so many places. I think if you end up having something successful and have means to help other stuff, so many places to put it. I think that the unique thing was kind of the timing and the story and really her drive to do that. That I was, you know, very much supporting her vision to do that. But it also wasn't, you know, new. Like she used to public speak with my sister when I was like a kid. Like,
Yeah,
you
right.
know, it's been there for forever. I think in terms of generosity, like, yeah, like if I put up like me growing up in Spokane to like a middle class, you know, white family from a very white high school and, you know, Foursquare Christianity culture, just that path, up against the surprise of your mom, getting that disease at that time.
Yeah.
And where that took us and the way in which that expanded our perspective of the world.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know exactly how generosity plays into that, but I think it was just a main diversifier of my outlook.
Yeah.
I think I would have had a little bit more of like, I don't know, your quintessential like somewhat small town upbringing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that switched things up in so many different ways.
Yeah.
But and still does, you know. It defined her whole path.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's been during this whole COVID time, she's been doing a lot of writing, just kind of capturing her whole story that she's told aspects of in so many different ways at different times, that it's the first like, man, she's like, man, I was going in like January, February to work on music and you know, work on these singles and stuff, and my mom's like, she wrote like 100,000 words in 6 months, I want to say.
Like memoir mode.
Yeah. And I'm like the creative one, you know what I mean? And she comes in and just
Gotta write
like
a 2-minute song.
her work ethic is like,
Wow.
it's like, damn,
Yeah.
I gotta get a song done.
It's 2 minutes
crazy.
and 17 seconds.
Sounds like she needs to make a movie.
Yeah.
And that maybe there's a dude who needs to score the movie.
No.
And
Hey, I've thought
maybe there's a
I've
dude who
thought
needs
all
to mix
these-
the movie.
I've thought all these things, but she's gonna do what she wants to do.
Which leads, I'm going to call it the closing question. And
Yeah.
if it goes somewhere, take it there. But
Sure.
what's something that's on your mind? And it doesn't have to be write a memoir, or it doesn't have to be make another hit. But like, what's something you're thinking about? Is it like, I want to put up some shelves in the spare bedroom? Like that's anywhere in that range.
Something
Yeah.
other than sliving a flat six into a pop song or something. You know?
Sure. You know, I moved here in the middle of COVID. I moved here in June or July.
I didn't know it was that recent.
Yeah. I was bouncing back and forth, but like we permanently, like I don't have a place in Seattle anymore. So we moved here during COVID, and you know, so far so good. Like I've really liked it. I feel like this is right, and it feels good to feel when something's like that was right. That's tight. This is a good thing. But now I'm settled in. My studio's, you know, set up. My house is set up, but it's still COVID, you know? And so it's a weird time for anybody to know exactly how to start something. So for me, having really just moved down here with a lot of energy and a lot of excitement, for music and for, whatever, creatively. It's weird for that to intersect with this complicated layer of how to be together, a complicated layer of how to be creative together. If you talk to me in like April or May, I'd be like, oh, fuck no, I am not doing a Zoom session. You know what I mean? Like, that sounds horrible.
Grim, yeah.
Yeah. Now I'm like, let's do a Zoom session. Like, what else are we gonna do? You know what I mean? Like, and who am I to say that that's not a great way to make a song? And that's what it is right now, is a Zoom session.
Find the energy.
Or wait 5 months. Those are, option A, Zoom session. Option B, wait 5 months. So, what do I want out of this year? I bring all of that up to say that for having just moved here, I don't feel like the world is my oyster with this city right now. I can't pop around, nothing's fucking happening. At least in person, physically. In so many ways, it would make no fucking difference if I was here or not. So I'm very excited for it to make a difference that I am here and I am down the street. And you can run around town and whatever, and it's not complicated to do that. So my goals would be, whatever. Song that I really love, collaboration with an artist that I really love, putting out a couple songs this year, getting to be part of, some projects that are cool, continuing to grow at my craft and poke at those pieces that are my weakest pieces that I want to improve. Great. But what I'm really after is something that my heart is in. That's it. And what I'm realizing is I don't really fucking care at this point. Like whether that is pop records and singles or, a collaboration with somebody that I've never worked with that's just magical, or whether that's scoring the movie that John wants to do, or, whatever it is, I'm most drawn at this point to something that doesn't feel like you should be doing anything else but that, I think that's what we're all always yearning for, and you can't snap your fingers and just have that show up. So with that, what I want to do in 2021 is make sure that I am putting myself out there, COVID or no COVID, when I can, how I can, whether that's comfortable or uncomfortable, to give myself the best shot of brushing up against the stuff that my heart will be in.
Yeah.
That's my goal. And I think everyone would agree it's a weird time to put that into action. But I think that's why it's the goal, is like, just try to put it into action, not even an assumption that you'll brush up against it tomorrow.
I love that. And if we don't close on that, we're fucking crazy. Yeah. So, dude, this has been an extraordinary pleasure.
Yeah, man.
I know you the least of anyone at the table, Michael the same. And it's just been so fun watching you drop these fucking distilled knowledge bombs, stuff that we've been exploring and talking about for 20 episodes and longer, for fucking years. But watching you, how honed it is and how clear you are, and it makes so much sense why you've had so much success and will continue to have. So thank you for coming on.
Thanks, Rory.
And yeah, anything else, guys?
I'm ready to play some chess, honestly.
Oh, no, you're not. No, you're not.
Oh, yes, I am.
Wait. 2021, I only have one goal. Destroy John Castelli.
Break his spirit. Checkmate. Done.
Conversations is produced and mixed by Dylan Seals. The Conversations theme was performed and recorded by the Hazelrigg brothers.